the toxic waste, then I would say, yeah, you've got to treat them in the same way.
So don't you think that it's basically impossible to make a new company and grow it?
I think we live in a very depressing world if you can't have a company without destroying local habitats and communities. There are numerous examples where you have the toxic waste being dealt with securely and safely. That is what we have to encourage CEOs of companies to do, because without that, we will have such ramifications on the global scene. We just won't be able to repair it. That is what we're saying. You have to deal with the waste you produce in a clean, efficient, quick manner.
Okay. Do you have any exact plan? How much would pollution cost, for example, a company?
How much it would cost them to clean?
Yeah.
The thing with this is it's value case, and therefore it must be treated on a case by case system. There are numerous examples in industry today where you look at where the courts have decided on individual fines or individual reasons to do certain things. You cannot generically say, oh, it's going to be this much money. It has to be something that has to be looked at a case-by-case step. However, I think you have to always maintain that you are trying to, you must maintain that local communities do not get irreparably, in some cases, damaged by your actions.
Okay, but hypothetically, if there's a company that pollutes but not deliberately, what would you do then in that case?
Well, I think in every case a warning would have to be given. It would have to be a case of a warning would have to be given.
But what if a company naturally pollutes?
Could you give me an example?
A coal plant. Like if it pollutes all the time, that's
I think also you must remember our definition was a direct physical action that damages the habitat of local communities. That's what we see environmental abuse as.
Yeah, but isn't letting CO2 into everyday to the environment direct physical contact with the environment?
Where would that be a direct physical contact, physical damage upon?
Well, if it affects environment, and it doesn't matter where it is, it does. Okay, so yes, it's possible. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm the first native speaker in today's motion. First, I would like to say that we agree with the value and the definition set by our opponents. We understand that this is a legal debate and it needs to be understood as such. However, we would like to question the value of justice. How can we actually measure justice? Because not all crimes are merely to say black and white. There is not, in some cases, you can't actually connect the dots and say this particular person is guilty for these actions. There are such cases. There are such cases, and we will explain them to you. Our opponents named many examples in which CEOs are responsible not directly for the physical harm done to the society. However, we also would like to state that if a person understands that he is harming the environment by, say, dumping toxic waste near a school ground or something like that, or something similar, then he understands the moral implications. He should say, I'm not doing this. You cannot expect CEOs to be entirely guilty. They are not the ones holding the entire blame. They are not the ones causing all the crimes, ladies and gentlemen. Now I would like to speak of certain other cases in which CEOs cannot be blamed. For instance, we cannot expect a CEO to have all physical data at certain times when he's making decisions. We would like to state, for instance, when a dam is being built, it gets built maybe in a bad position, in a bad place, causes a mudslide. The mudslide harms several houses. That is harmful to the community. Yet the CEO did not know that there was actually going to be damage. He did not know that this was going to happen, ladies and gentlemen. We would also like to take a moment to speak about how governments have also a big responsibility when dealing with the population, because this is their responsibility. Governments are the ones taking care of the population, not merely the justice system. For instance, we would like to give an example with coal power plants in China. As we all know, China is a great emitter of CO2 and other greenhouse gases, which in many cases actually flow into the cities in large amounts, causing the cities themselves to have fogs and fogs of actual gases that are bad for the health, that really, really have direct damage towards the people. But can we actually blame these companies for doing so? Because China has a policy, ladies and gentlemen. China has a policy according to which it artificially lowers prices of electricity. This way companies cannot develop. These companies cannot, for instance, try to be cleaner. They cannot try to fix themselves. And companies that emit this coal-related gas, that emit this greenhouse gas, that emit this harmful, directly harmful gas, they cannot do anything. Their hands are financially tied because they get a very small percentage of profit from the people who are paying the bills, because the prices are artificially lowered. So in that case, it is the Chinese government that is guilty of harming its own population. It is with these examples that we believe that CEOs cannot be always guilty for environmental problems that they have caused with their decisions. Thank you.
Do you think the CEO should decide the policy direction for his company?
Yes, I do.
Do you think he should be responsible for ensuring that he has some oversight of the departments that are under him?
He probably should, but he cannot actually have oversight about everything that happens.
So it's acceptable for a company manager to not know what's going on in his company?
Not that it's acceptable for him not to know. There are things that he should not know.
Okay. Now, you gave the example of the mudslide. Now, you said they build a dam. Surely they should have to do some kind of study into the ramifications of this now?
Of course they would have to. But if the situation, this is an example situation of which a CEO might not be guilty because he did not know the environmental implications.
Surely then that's the case, just as we have in basically any law, where it was beyond the person's control, and such is not an issue of negligence, which is not what we're discussing. Do you not agree?